Chapter 6 1300 Casts, Week 4. When I opened my eyes and looked around sleepily, stretching my arms above my head as I looked around. The fire had died out. Michelle and the female half-human were asleep. So was the cub. I put the cub in the cave on my spare garmenty, and I doused the rest of the fire. Michelle woke up, yawning and stretching before doing a morning patrol around the clearing, making sure there were no dangerous threats or creatures nearby that could pose a threat. After he was sure it was secure, he came back to me, and I finished making a fruit bowl, one for me, one for the female half-human, and one for Michelle. Michelle took his bowl and began eating as I walked over to the female half-human as she woke up, sitting next to her, and when she sat up, handed her the bowl of fruit, and she ate. I ate my own portion and thought of what happened last night. Fire resistance? Is that a good sign of these stupid scales? Once we all finished, I put the bowls next to the stream running next to the clearing to wash later. Then I went to collect stray sticks and put them in the stick pile. The female half-human spoke, and I listened with wide eyes. "Nani mi wet it fate speaker," she said in a quiet voice. Is threat fate speaker? I asked. She nodded. What a beautiful name. My name is Inferno. She looked at me with a puzzled look. Right, I forgot you don't understand English. Let me say it again. Nani mi wet and Inferno. I said thoughtfully, looking into her galactic purple eyes. She nodded and nudged my shoulder, a sign that she was warming up to me little by little. I helped her onto the bed of moss to rest as I sparred with Michelle. Michelle and I were good sparring partners. That's how I taught him how to fight like I do, doing it in a crouching pose and to use his legs to propel himself into the air, to land behind your opponent, to strike them in the back to weaken them. He was learning quickly. The cub watched as we sparred for about an hour, until Michelle was getting tired and I stopped. Good round. Try to practice that crouching pose in the leap, I said, leaping about 4 feet in the air and back down. Michelle nodded and began to add more to the barriers around the clearing. The female half-human led the cub snuggle into her arms to rest, and she fell asleep too. I draped a bear fur blanket over her and the cub to keep her warm, due to the wind being a little chilly. It was now midday, as the sun brutally shined its rays into the clearing. I put the blanket back a few minutes ago, not wanting to overheat her or the cub. I put mud on my body to keep me cool by collecting soil and putting water in it. Michelle looked grossed out. Stupid humans. It's an instinct to keep my kind cool from the sun, I said, as I smeared mud onto my arms, torso, legs, and back. Once that was done and the mud was dry, I heard something rustle in the bushes. Looked behind me, and it was a cobra. Yep, you heard me right. We have cobras here, and the ones we have here are huge, about 3 feet wide and 20 feet long. They are huge and obviously venomous. Michelle ran inside the cave, along with Fate Speaker and the cub. I growled at the snake, who hissed. The name of this large noodle is Scan Cobra. Its fangs are as big as 3 feet long, and its eyes with night vision, a perfect killing machine. I dodged its first bite and got onto its back, using my claws to scratch the snake's head and eyes. The snake hissed and shook its head, trying to get me off, but I held on tight. I stabbed one of its eyes, and it hissed loudly as I got off its back, dodging its second bite attack as I landed on the ground. These things are no joke. One bite can kill anything, no matter the size, in minutes. Just stupid thing, just die! I yelled as Michelle, Fate Speaker, and the cub watched from inside the cave as I fought the giant snake. About an hour later, I managed to lead the snake far away from the camp and kill it by stabbing its head over and over again. It fell to the ground and let out one last hiss before its eyes shut. I smiled and ran back to the camp, running back into the cave and dropping to my knees, panting. Michelle held me as I collapsed against him, the mud falling off in flakes as I panted. Fate Speaker gave me a bowl of water and I drank it, thanking her with a nod before collapsing onto my bed of pine branches, falling asleep while the cub snuggled in my arms. as I drifted off to a dreamless slumber. 1,300 casts, week 4, day 29. I woke up the next morning sore and groggy. I must have slept the rest of the day and night. Damn. I sat up as the cub nudged me and chirped happily that I was awake. Michelle fed the cub some meat while I sat up, stretching my arms over my head and yawning. Oh man, fighting that giant snake is no easy feat, I said. Michelle nodded as the cub finished the meat. I know. Fighting one of those large cobras is not easy, Michelle said, feeding the cub a little more meat. I hate those snakes, thinking they can just wander into my home like they own it, I grumbled, and Michelle could tell I'm very annoyed. But I collected some of the snake's scales to keep, I said, showing him the 8 scales I had collected. Michelle took them and put them in the cave to keep them safe. My plan is to collect 8 scales of every creature I get, I said, my voice full of confidence. Why? Michelle asked, looking at me with doubt. Because I can, Michelle, I said, then my shoulders slumped. Michelle sighed and got a smaller bear saw to collect more reeds. Gonna collect more? I asked. Yeah, we may have a lot, but having more than we need is better than having less than we need. I nodded, letting him go into the woods. I was worried for him, but I knew he was a hunter, so he could survive. I looked back at the scroll. I should keep reading it a little more to know about my mission, but I would like to tell you, reader, whoever is reading this, a little more information. If you want to know about what year this is happening in your world, Michelle taught me this, just take the year, right now it's 1,300 casts, multiply it by 8 for the 8 Godalkin, then divide it by 25. If we do the math, we get 416. If you get a number below 4 digits, add a 0 at the end. So 1,300 casts is the year 4160. If you get a number higher than 4 digits, then take away the digits until it's 4-digit number. Then turn the last digit into a 0. Let's say you get, 321 and 45 tenths. Or 321.45. You would get rid of the 5 and decimal point, so it would be 3214. Then the 4 would become 0, so the year would be 3210. Okay, back to the scroll. I opened it up and read past the sentence we already read. Let's do a description of wave, tide wave.